is now turned on. All right, we're ready to go. Hello everyone and welcome to Xero User Hour. My name is Jeri Murphy and I'm here to present Xero User Hour here to you today. Most of our subscribers that join us on Xero User Hour here are Australian and New Zealand Xero advisors or Xero users. If you're from, if you want to, and in the chat panel now, you can type in the chat panel to the right of the video screen and say hi and let me know where you're joining me from today. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If whilst I'm waiting for everybody just to log in, I can see the numbers climbing as I'm chatting away. So just a little bit of housekeeping to let you know that as I'm going through this demonstration today and talking to you about some of the interesting things that are happening in the Xero ecosystem, some Xero news, some new add-ons, as well as information about some interesting things that are happening in the Xero space in relation to people that we've mentioned and covered in the latest issue of XU Magazine. Xero User Hour is brought to you by XU Magazine, and it's really just an hour of Xero information all about Xero tips and tricks, as well as about latest Xero news and things like that. So in the chat panel to the right of the box, you should be able to hear me, but I obviously can't hear you. I don't have any sound at your end. In the chat panel to the side of the video box there, it says chat, and you can write a message in there. So you can write hi and let me know where you're joining from today if you want to. You don't have to if you're shy or if you don't want to. But if you have any questions about Xero, absolutely anything at all, then feel free to ask me, because I provide training and provide tips on Xero use throughout Australia and New Zealand, obviously mostly. I'm an Australian Xero advisor and Xero trainer, but also I connect with a lot of the add-ons and I do a lot of research as the co-founder of whichaddon.com. So the whole purpose for me is to be here as an expert on the Xero ecosystem or on Xero itself to answer any questions that you have. I will fill the hour with lots of information and exciting things that I've found out along this week since our last Xero User Hour. It happens every Wednesday. If you were here last week, I apologize. I was very sick last Wednesday and couldn't make the live Xero User Hour, but I'm still going to be covering lots of tips and tricks for you this week to make up for last week. Excellent. Hi Mandy, welcome. Thank you for putting your chat panel in there. I am feeling much better, thank you. It was out of action for a couple of days, but great to be back. All right, so what I've got up on the screen at the moment is just the XU Magazine website, and just over here on my other screen I'm going to get up my Xero demo company, because I want to take you through some of the top tips of things that happened or that were written up by other Xero users in the latest issue 7. One of the articles that I provided in issue 7 this time was an article about how to review your Xero file. Now that's something we covered in a live Xero User Hour a few must have been about a month ago now. We covered that topic in a live how to review a Xero file. But if there's certain things and certain questions you have, if you're able to join that live stream, or if you're interested in that as well, of course, have a look at issue 7 of XU Magazine, and it takes you through the checklist of all of the things that I through that process on Xero User Hour Live a few weeks ago, and also takes you through the description of why I do what I do when I review a Xero file. So that's the how to review a Xero file article on just before the add-on directory. Where is it? I've just got the XU Magazine here in front of me. There it is, on page 97 of issue 7 of the XU Magazine. All right, so I'm just going to bring my full screen now so you can just see my Xero demo company. And as I said, I want to take you through some of the tips of what others have provided on Xero throughout issue 7. And these might be things that you've come across before. However, I thought this Xero user hour, you never know, and feel free to let me know where you're at in terms of your expertise in Xero. But I never know where you're at, and I don't want to just provide advanced Xero training and things that you may or may not need. I don't know. So I'm going to just stick with giving you the tips that we're in issue 7 as we focus on issue 7 this week. But of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to send them through. Alrighty, so what I wanted to show you was the top tips for Xero users on how to tidy up your Xero account. This is on page 26 of issue 7 of the XU magazine. It was written by or compiled by Spofford Chartered Accountants in the UK. All right, so the first thing that they talk about in relation to tidying up your Xero accounts is to do with contacts. So the two things that I wanted to show you today is how to merge contacts and also how to archive contacts. So if we go here in Xero to contacts, go to all contacts. All right, there it is. I'm just going to close that down and zoom in a bit for you. I've removed myself as well so you can actually see the screen fully, so there's nothing missing. All right, so we've got all contacts and we're just going to select one of our contacts. Let me see if I've got any merges here that we can use. Bayside Club and Bayside Wholesale is a pretty common one that's in the demo file. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge together Bayside Club and Bayside Wholesale. So what we need to do is we need to select the one that we want to get rid of, which is Bayside Wholesale. So we're going to just Bayside Club's obviously got some more information in it. Bayside Wholesale has just been added accidentally. Go to Bayside Wholesale, scroll to the top, select options in here. They move everything around. You can never find it straight away anymore. Options, merge, and then we type in the one that we want to merge with. So I'll just type in the word Bay, select Bayside Club, and hit merge. So the one that we type in, so we tick the one we don't want, we type in the one that we do want to keep because it's the one that's going to be retained after the merge. So that's how you merge the contacts. Now, I do want to show you that you can, or at least you used to be able to unmerge contacts. Let me just have a look and see if you can still unmerge contacts. Because I know that it would say that you could unmerge contacts, but then it didn't really unmerge it. It just created the contact itself, but didn't put all the other older information back in again. So if we look in archived, here's our contact that we had, Bayside Wholesale. So they're archived and we could restore it. If we restore it, we're saying it's merged with Bayside Club. If we restore it, we'll see if there's any of that information has come back through into the file. Well, we have to look over here. So I've still got the same contact code and things. So you are able to restore the old contact if you merge something together that you didn't mean to merge. For example, if you pick the wrong one, you can restore that file again. It's effectively unmerging it just by recreating it again. The information's still being held. It's not just the name, it's got GST on imports here. That was the only field that was really in there other than the currency. So you can merge contacts and you can unmerge the contact, but it's really just about going to your archived contacts list and restoring that contact back and making it active again. All right. So I showed you how to unarchive or restore an archived contact, and therefore we also saw that when we're merging contacts, the old one gets archived. How do we just archive a contact if we just don't want to merge it, we just want to archive it? So you would of course want to merge this one here because Bayside Wholesale needs to be merged with these bills because it's an outstanding bill. Let's just archive Berry Brew. So I'm going to select that and go to Options and Archive. So that's been archived. Just out of interest, I want to see what happens if we try and archive Bayside Wholesale, whether it lets us, because it has bills. All right, it lets us archive that contact, which means we wouldn't be able to select it anymore. But of course, the bill's still going to be there under Bayside Wholesale. So let's have a look in there. Let's have a look in awaiting payment. We should have here, we've got Bayside Wholesale and Bayside Club. So when we're talking about the concept of tidying up our Xero account, of course, the best way, even though you could archive Bayside Wholesale so it's not to be used again, it's best to make sure that you merge Bayside Wholesale with Bayside Club so that the bill here that exists gets put into, and of course any of the other contact information gets rolled into the contact that you want to keep. But that's some tips there in relation to tidying up your contacts in your Xero account. All right, the next great tip, and these are all such simple things, but something that is just so handy that I guess a lot of people do just by default, but let's just quickly make sure that everybody knows how to do each of these things. So we've got next the credit notes. So have you got credit notes that have not yet been allocated to an invoice or bill? So if we go to our waiting payment list, let's see if there's any credit notes in there. If not, we can create one. No, here's one here. Thank you, demo company. All right, so City Limousines. Here's a credit that's $60.50, and realistically, I'm guessing that this should be applied to these outstanding invoices unless it has to be applied to a particular invoice that isn't here yet. Maybe it might be because you're using an inventory system and you've got to push across that invoice that relates to that, or something else, or you just know that that's a credit and they still have to pay these invoices in full. Whatever your example might be. In a lot of cases, the credit note itself should actually be applied to the invoice. So this is a good time when you're thinking about tidying up your Xero account. I would just do this by default on a daily basis, but when I go and review clients' files, it's often a thing that you need to tell them to do. So in doing that, I'm telling you guys to do it today. So we've got here City Limousines. This is our credit. There's two different ways we can allocate this credit. We could go into the invoice itself that we want to apply the credit note to. And when you have a credit note outstanding for a customer, see down the bottom here, you might not have seen this before, it's got City Limousines has a $60.50 in outstanding credit this invoice. So we could select credit this invoice, enter in the information here. We're already in the right invoice that we want to credit, and we could type in the amount to credit and allocate it. That's one option. What's our other options? The other options is you can go into the credit note itself. So select the credit note, and up the top, under credit note options, select allocate credit. Then you have a choice of both invoices that are outstanding for these guys, and you can apply it to whichever one you want. I'll apply it to the oldest one. So select allocate credit. And now when we look at our outstanding invoices that are awaiting payment, we're going to have just the two invoices there and no outstanding credit notes. One of the other things that I see a lot are people that, with people collecting customer deposits or collecting payments on quotes, on which I suppose is a customer deposit, but you might not think of customer deposits in this way. But let's say you've got customer deposits, or you've got prepayments, or you've got payments being made to suppliers prior to the bill being entered into Xero because you don't know what the final bill might be, something like that. I see a lot of people creating a whole lot of prepayments if they need to, which is a very good way of doing it, but then they don't apply those prepayments to the invoice. They let the prepayment sit there and the invoice sit there, so the total overall result is that customer owes nothing. But just apply those prepayments, make those invoices paid, clean it all up on a regular basis, and you're going to know and see exactly what's going on straight away. It's also very important in that example to make sure that those prepayments are applied so that the amounts are actually reallocated from the prepayments account on your balance sheet to your sales invoices, and your balance sheet is correct, with prepayments money being held on behalf of sales that haven't been completed yet versus the fact that the sales have been completed and the debtors are no longer owing. All right. The next one I wanted to show you was outstanding invoices. So this really is just in relation to looking at these outstanding invoices and making sure that they are completely valid. You, of course, can send statements as well. If you need to chase up money, you can do that by going to send statements here in any of the sales screens. Send statements, and you can send out a statement to each of these either by print or email. If I select all of these here and select print, it's going to give me one PDF with all of these different statements on it, and you can print them off and mail them off if you're still doing it that way, or you can hit email and you'll get 6 different emails to all of these different ones. We need to enter some email addresses here for these two. Now, if you didn't know already, there is 2 statement types. There is an activity statement type and an outstanding statement type. So the activity here is between 1st of May and 31st of May. So if I create a statement here, what it's going to do is show me all of the invoices that were raised during the May period, and it's going to show all of the payments, credit notes that have been applied or raised during the May period. That gives you the history, the in and outs, and shows the opening balance and the closing balance that's owing as at the 31st of May. If you produce let's do one actually. What's one that's got some invoices in here? We should have, let's try City Limousines. It might be older. We'll do it old, just back to April, just in case. All right, so for City Limousines, let's just print this activity statement to see what it looks like. So here's our statement. It's showing well, they didn't have an opening balance at that, no, sorry, there it is there, opening balance here. The opening balance as of the 1st of May was $910. We applied that credit note, so they now have a total amount of outstanding of $849.50. If you had other invoices raised during that period, then that what would be shown, but instead it's showing this opening balance. So the client themselves might not know, if this is the first time they've really taken any notice. They're like, well, that's nice that I owe that much, but what do I owe it for? All I can see is $910. So in those examples, you can do a outstanding statement type, still the same value, but it looks a little bit different. So if we tick that, print that, this is what it looks like here. And this shows me that we had 15th of March was when the first invoice was raised for $1,100, and there's $910.50 has already been paid against that. It doesn't say when or how, but it says that was the payments that have been applied to it. So the balance is $189.50. And the other invoice, which makes up that amount, is the 4th of April. And that's 4th of April, and the invoice amount was $660. So our $910 that was actually the opening balance is the those two amounts, but the credit note itself on here is applied in the payment section. So it was $910, then the credit note, which got you to this amount. So this is like a running balance, I guess, but it doesn't show the date that the credit note was actually applied. So you're going to have some clients that like to provide the activity statement in most cases, especially if they're monthly statements. But if you just want a clear outstanding statement of exactly what is owed and why, that's when the outstanding statement type becomes very useful. Alrighty. The next thing that I wanted to cover that was mentioned in issue 7 of XU magazine on page 27 is the 4th tip in relation to Xero files. So whether you're actually using Xero files, and they're talking about the concept that using Xero files is a great way to declutter your office and obviously go paperless to get a copy of those records and put them into Xero files. What I would also like to think about is the concept of decluttering your Xero files, because you can get some clients which get so overzealous with using Xero files, especially emailing Xero files in, that you end up with the process that you end up having to declutter your Xero files if you're not keeping on top of it. So let's look at some of the concepts of how we can declutter Xero files. Now this here is the Xero files inbox. If you haven't seen how to email in a file, let's just copy this email address in here. I'm going to find a bill for you in my emails and see what I've got here. I think I had an energy bill recently, which I can find. Not sure if it's an attachment. It has to be an attachment. Yep, it is. All right, so I've got an email over this side, and I'm just going to email it to that address. You can't see that, it's just on my other screen. Going to email in that file. So this, I've just copied this address, put it in my emails. Because I have an email with an electricity bill that's attached to that, I've attached that, emailed that file in. All right, so just give Xero a moment, and now it says one file is uploaded via email into the demo company. So that's pretty quick, isn't it? If you haven't emailed files into Xero before, that's how quick it is. And that email, that inbox here, this email file that comes up, that is the unique email address for this particular Xero file. So you should, I'll just refresh the screen so you can actually see that it's in there. Okay, so the Xero inbox email here, what I tell people to do is save that into your contacts, such as demo company Xero files or your company name Xero files. And that means that as soon as you get a bill, that if you're not using Receipt Bank or HubDoc or Expensify or any of those add-ons that deal with receipt management, if you're not using those and emailing your invoices and receipts and bills straight into those systems, then of course you can import it into Xero files, and you've got that information in there. So in here in Xero files, and you can enter the bill in. Yes, but it's that quick and easy. Just save the contact in your phone, in your Google contacts, in any way you need to email stuff from, and you can email it straight in, and that's easiest. But it has to be the attachment. It can't be information inside. So in the email that I had, the information was inside the email as well as an attachment. And if I just had the information inside the email but not in the attachment, then I would need to I would needed to upload it directly, because it has to be an actual attachment. All right, so that's showing you how quick and easy it is to get your files in there. Now, of course, if I add this electricity bill in and attach this file to my electricity bill, then I'm going to see the bill is then going to be attached to that transaction, and it's not going to be here in the inbox anymore. So I don't need to create a folder for it, because it's going to be there already attached to the transaction I need to attach it to. The types of things that you might put in a folder that you're going to send into Xero files that will enable you to declutter your Xero files inbox are things like bank statements. So you get your bank statements still sent to you even though you've got bank feeds. You want to keep a copy of them with a Xero file, put them into bank statements. You can't put subfolders in here, so you can't put them in month by month, so make sure you name your files correctly when you put them in here. The other one that I like to do is supplier statements, and if you have a lot of suppliers with a lot of statements, you might want to have your own folder for each of those suppliers, or the key suppliers, maybe 5 key suppliers, and then the rest is other suppliers. So your supplier statements are there, so when you look at all the individual bills, you've still got a copy of the supplier statements. So let me think if there's anything else that you would provide that you would put in Xero files. Let me know if you're already using Xero files. I've got a mental blank on what other folders I can put in here. Of course, there's contracts and things like that. But if you let me know whatever you think, whatever you can think of as other things. I've got a mental blank at the moment, and there's chat questions coming up, so I'm getting distracted. Let me answer those chat questions, and then I'll come back through with a proper response of what else we could add in there. All right. So question here, setting it up as a user to on your printer works well as well. Oh, of course. Yes. So yeah, I think you're talking about scanning your, having a user set up to scan your Xero files straight from your printer/scanner into Xero files. So you scan it and email it straight into Xero files. That's perfect. Great tip. Thank you. Awesome. And the other person is saying, is there sound? Yes, there should definitely be sound. Make sure that you have pressed the play button on the main video screen, and also that your sound on your computer is turned up. If you don't have it, if you've turned it up on your computer but it's still not working, on the left-hand side, just next to the play button down in the bottom left-hand corner, there is a little volume thing, and if it has a cross on it, that means it's muted. If it doesn't have a cross, it just needs to be able to put it up. Excellent. We've got sound at the other end. Very good. It's had my speakers on a different default. Perfectly fine. I do that quite often because I've got this mic here next to me, and I've got my headphones, and then this program I use to live stream to you guys has another little default thingy that happens in the background. So perfectly understand. All good. All right. So I know there's a bit of a lag, so if anyone has any tips on the extra folders you can put in here for Xero files that you use, I have a mental blank on it, but if you have extra ones, chuck it in the chat box and I'd love to share it with everybody. But that is some tips for you on using Xero files. Now, I'm not going to show you the bill that I have here. As I was talking, I realized it's going to have my home address on it, which I don't really want to broadcast to the interwebs. So what I will do is quickly download an example bill. So, and then we can use that to put it into Xero, and I'll show you how to upload it and also do a side-by-side side-by-side bill entry, which I'm sure you've probably done. Maybe some of you have done before, but I know when I showed it once, there was lots of people that hadn't done it. So, all right, this one looks pretty good. Let's download this. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a file. There's my file. And what I can do with this bill, now I've uploaded it, I can click on it to have a bit of a look at it. There's my bill. And check that it's all fine. Now I can tick the bill and select Add to New Bill. There's lots of options here if you want to add this file or create an entry from this. You can create a sales invoice, a bill, expense receipt, receive money or spend money. It depends on what you're doing and what you're putting in here, but I'm going to show you the concept on a bill. But it can be very handy to use these other things with expense receipts as well. Of course, if you use something like Receipt Bank or Expensify, then you can have that information put into Xero for you by those apps. But if you're doing it through Xero files, then you can get the file in here and do it like I'm about to show you. So I said add to new bill because I'm going to pretend this bill hasn't been paid yet. Give Xero a moment and it is going to open up the bill on the left hand side. So here we've got the bill that we can see on the left hand side, just like we would have it on the piece of paper on the desk in front of us. And on the right hand side we've got the bill entry screen, just like we would normally have it. Zoom out a little bit so you can see. So all we need to do now, because we have it right next to us, is type in the information. So Aurora Energy, oh, it's an old one, this one, 10th of October. I'd hope that it wasn't still unpaid, but I'm just going to put the information in there for purposes. Pay by the 29th of October. Oh, they don't give you much. Oh no, that's pay by. Where's the issue date? I don't think they have an issue date on this one. Oh no, there it is, period of July, statement for the July to 10th of October. Let's put 10th of October on there. I don't know, it's just a fake bill. Here is the bill here. The reference is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The amount 151.74. Not sure if it's in, no, it's in Australian dollars. And here we've got workshop electricity. All right. So I can now approve this. And here in my bills, I've now got a bill awaiting payment. Here it is for Aurora Energy. The bill's sitting in awaiting payment. The file's attached here, ready for me to look back to at any time. If I look back in my Xero files, I can see that I don't have any files left there, and that file has been assigned to that transaction. Of course, if you have assigned all of your transactions that you need to assign, and you then need to still get that file and assign it somewhere here because it needs to be recorded inside the Xero file, put it in these folders over here. As I said, you can't have subfolders, but you can create, I don't know if there's a limit on the amount of folders you can create. I've never seen anyone try and create a whole lot of them, or seen any issues or heard of any issues of that being an issue. So, but yes, there's some tips for you on Xero files and ensuring that you keep your Xero file tidy. Well, Xero file and your Xero file section of your Xero file tidy, and some tips there. All right, next tip, top tip number 5 for Xero users that was shared with us in issue 7 of XU Magazine is the top 5, tip 5 is outstanding items. It says it would also be helpful to run a bank reconciliation report from manage account and check for any outstanding items such as checks that haven't been cleared. They should be chased up and either reissued or cancelled. Oh, this is a favorite for me because I see it being an issue so many times. And I talked about this in the How to Review a Xero File segment that we did a few weeks ago on Xero User Hour, and also in my article in the back of issue 7 on how to review a Xero file. And I talked about the concept that as a Xero advisor, or even a Xero user, if this statement balance here is not the amount of money that was in your bank account on this date next to it, then you have some work to do. As an advisor, you've got some work to do to make sure that's correct for your client. As a client, you need to reconcile your statement balance correctly, because that statement balance should be what was in the bank account at the end of this particular date. So that's number 1. If that's not correct, you need to do that first before you even worry about the thing I'm about to show you. The top tip that's mentioned in issue 7 is the fact that you could have unreconciled checks that have been issued and that either need to be reissued if they weren't issued correctly in the first place, posted off and not dealt with correctly, or if they have been not received or by the person, or needs to be a different name. I don't know, whatever. I can't. Checks not being sent correctly, payments not being sent correctly, and bouncing back, things like that. So to get to the account transaction screen, you can of course go to manage and then account transactions. I like just selecting the bank account name, and it takes you straight to the account transaction screen in one click. So in here for example is on the 1st of June, an unreconciled transaction, which was a payment made to Gateway Motors. So here this is showing me that this payment was made to Gateway Motors on the 1st of June because someone wrote at the bottom of the bill that they were going to do that. And if I go through my bank reconciliation and reconcile everything and find that this payment hasn't actually come out of the bank account, then it's will still be sitting here as unreconciled later on. But it's likely that this transaction will show up in my bank feed, and there's no point going through here and reviewing your unreconciled transactions until you have reconciled your bank account. So we've still got 28 transactions to reconcile in here, and here is the an invoice, here is a bill, and if I scroll to one of these pages down here, Gateway Motors is on the 1st of June. So when I look there now in my account transactions, now I have reconciled those payments, I will see that those transactions are no longer unreconciled. So they're not outstanding trouble transactions anymore because they actually did happen. So don't bother looking at unreconciled transactions until you've reconciled everything and until you've got your statement balance correct. If your statement balance is correct and you've reconciled everything and you come in here and you find some unreconciled transactions, one of the quickest way to find an unreconciled transaction is to sort by status. So if I click status here, I can see I've got status there and they're all reconciled. If I press it again, I can see, I don't think there's any unreconciled ones in here. press it again, and I will have all my transactions going the other way, and I can see they're all still falling under the reconciled status. So there's no problem unreconciled transactions sitting in here. If they were, then you need to work out if they actually ever came out of your bank account. If they did, why are they still sitting there? If they didn't come out of your bank account, then maybe it's a check that needs to be reissued, or a deposit that needs to be confirmed if it was actually the right amount that was deposited, and so on. The other little tip I have for you, which I love to do and tell people to do all the time when it is relations to Xero, is using the Discuss tab a lot. In my training, I teach people that every time you leave a transaction unreconciled, unless you've run out of time for the day and you're coming back to it tomorrow, you're not going to waste time entering Discuss comments in for every transaction. But if you leave a transaction unreconciled and move on to the next one, and you've looked at this one and going, oh, I can't match it, I can't reconcile that one, what do I do? You need to type in the Discuss tab exactly what it is that you are waiting to do. So your next step. So if you have, so let's just say awaiting remittance advice because you can't match it, you would write in here awaiting remittance advice. If you need to ask someone a question, you would say here, you would say, let's just say business owner, was this business or personal, for example. I would then also write my initials as well. Hello? Oh, I think we're back. I don't know what's happening there, but my mic was flashing. I don't think I touched my mic, but my mic was flashing. All right, I'm not sure how much was missed, so let's... All right, I will just check that everybody can hear me fine. Again, apologies for that. I'm pretty sure that you would have just missed the last point that I mentioned on... oh, hang on, I'll just write it in here. All right, I think we're back now. All right, I think you guys would have missed the point that I just made around the final tip on issue 7 for top tips for Xero users was to use bank rules. So I apologize for that muting there. Maybe I did slightly touch my mic. I don't know what happened there, but it was suddenly flashing and I thought, I don't know if that's usually flashing. I should have checked when I first saw it, but because there's a bit of a lag, I wasn't sure. Anyway, we're back and we're real. That's what Xero User is all about, being live. All right, so what I wanted to do was share with you the cover story of issue 7, and it's a really interesting article about the founder of an MD of Advanced Track Outsourcing in the UK. And what this article does is it really goes in depth and talks about why you would even consider outsourcing. So it's Advanced Track Outsourcing. I won't go into any of the details about the company and things like that, but there was just one really key thing that stood out to me as being the concept around why use outsourcing. And it just says here, I'll just read it out to you. Of course, you can read it in issue 7 yourself, the whole article. But it says professional outsourcing helps accountants deliver more of the value-added services by relieving them of the routine work. It frees highly skilled local staff to deliver more of the work that clients value and expect to be delivered by their advisors. A full cloud strategy can be delivered fairly quickly if the accountancy firm works in partnership with well-resourced resourced outsourcer, it's a big word, a big sentence, with a well-trained workforce. All right, so that really goes through and continues to talk about the low-cost challenges, self-service, and a whole bunch of other things about quality and security of the data and how Advanced Track cover that process and talk about that. So that's in issue 7. It's the cover story around the Advanced Track Outsourcing and how they've grown the business and all the values of their business and what they do. The other thing that I wanted to show you, and I might be able to bring that up for you here on, sorry, I should have had it ready before. I'm just finding my version of it. All right, 1 second and I'll find this. I've got a digital version of issue 7. If you haven't haven't subscribed to XU Magazine yet, you can subscribe to XU Magazine on the website. Actually, maybe I'll have a picture on here. In the issue 7, I'm not sure if oh look, there's me and me again. Right, that's really weird. I'm just trying to find the reporting comparisons article that I did to show you what the how much detail the comparison article goes into. Let me see if I can search it up here. I haven't really had to look on the all right, I don't know if the financial reporting article got here. It's not called that. It's maybe add-ons compared. Oh, might not be able to find it on here. No, okay, I will just quickly get the live version of my digital version so I can show you a copy of what it looks like. Oh, come on. Sorry. Actually, do you know what I can do? I can turn the camera on. Silly brain. All right, let me turn the camera on and I can show you. All right, now you can see. So this is the comparison that was put in on financial reporting in XU Magazine. So there's a whole lot of detail we've put in there. I interviewed a lot of the add-ons to do with financial reporting during the month prior to this, and got a lot of the information also from their website. The apps that we cover are Fathom, Profit-C, Spotlight Reporting, Float, and Crunchboards. So on that financial reporting comparison, that goes into the detail of all of the core reporting functionality, consolidation functionality, dashboards, budgeting, cash flow forecasting, and KPI reporting and benchmarking. On the other page, there is everything about divisional reporting, branding and customization, alerts and reminders, accounting integrations, users and permissions, the mobile apps, who has what, as well as the support levels functionality. So we've gone into all of that detail and compared those top 5 financial reporting add-on apps. Now, there was one mistake in it we picked up later on, which I have to mention now, so that when you're reading it, you do know that it's that it is correct, and that is that there's an inaccuracy, and that is that Spotlight reporting does do multi-currency consolidation. That was an overlook on my behalf, and I should have questioned it with them as I did everything else, that I added that one in the last minute. And Spotlight reporting does do multi-currency consolidation. So please put a tick on that one if you're looking through your article and having a look, or if you ever come across a client that needs multi-currency consolidation in their reporting, then that's where you can find it. In Spotlight reporting and in Fathom. They're the 2 of those 5 solutions that can currently do that at this point in time. All right, so the other things I wanted to show you. So we've got the detailed reporting add-on. We detailed comparison of reporting add-ons. Haven't decided what industry we're going to do the reporting, the add-ons comparison on next month. I was thinking of doing it on inventory, because that's something that on whichaddon.com on our website, we find a lot of people that are coming to us for inventory advice. I don't know whether that's just because we focus on inventory as ourselves, as cloud integrators, as to how we've ended up with that, or whether people are just looking for that information. We don't really know yet, but let us know if it's something what industry do you want us to compare when it comes to the add-ons in issue 8 of XU Magazine. We'd love your input there. All right, the final thing I wanted to share with you, and of course, if you have any questions at any time, let me know. The final thing I wanted to show you was something that I saw with Xero, that came up in Xero this week, and that is, it just came up today. I'll just find you the link. It is the summer of add-ons. So if you are in the US time zone, or if you, I don't know what time you have to stay up to at night, if you're, I don't think it's too bad of a time difference. I think I read today it is 1 p.m. Let's just have a quick look. Oh, that webinar's ended because it was today. HubDoc is the next one. Okay, so it's, 3 a.m. our time by the looks of it. So 3 a.m. Sydney time, because I'm in Sydney. So if you want to get up at 3 a.m. Sydney time, you can listen to the summer camp interview, which is being run out of the US. So it's week 1 of Xero summer camp. Receipt Bank has already done theirs at, I'm assuming, 3 a.m. yesterday morning, so or 3 a.m. this morning, Sydney time. But of course, if you're in the US, you can have a much more suitable time. And here we've got oh, hang on, I haven't shown you my screen, sorry. I'm still looking at me talking, looking at the screen. There we go. Okay, so I'm at xero.com/US/summercamp. I'll put it in the post link as well down the bottom. Let me just, how do I do it up here? All right, so I'm just going to put down the bottom in the chat box, or not in the chat box, but in the update, link to Xero Summer Camp US. But you can join any of those if 3 a.m. if you can't sleep, or if you are in the time zone that is suitable, that you can listen to the US ones. Here, I'll just put it in the chat box as well. It's in the post below and in the chat box as well. All right, so we've got Receipt Bank, HubDoc, Bill.com, Fathom are all being covered at the US Summer of Add-ons. And in week 2, they're covering Insightly, who's also one of our advertisers. I think a few of these guys advertise in XU Magazine. Insightly, Shopify, Expensify, and Alvalara, which which is one of the UK add-ons that deals with US add-ons that deals with sales tax. So we don't use it here in Australia, but of course it's the US summer of add-ons. So that's something that I thought that everybody would be interested in knowing. That information is out there and ready for you to watch for free, run by Xero this month on some just other interesting things about add-ons that are happening right now. All right, well, they are all the things that I wanted to cover in this particular Xero User Hour. There might be some other ones that I'll cover in the Xero User Hour next week. We were going to do it on end of year payroll, but I think I'd prefer to cover off some of the extra things that we covered in issue 7 and some of the other interesting articles in a bit more depth about how to look at the articles that we've got in issue 7 to go into some more detail. There was some more there in relation to tips, but just some really interesting articles that I thought we'd pull some of those apart and get to know some of the information and what it is that everybody is doing. So we've got some information on Sin 7 from the founder of Sin 7 and different Xero advisors and how they've chosen to do some of the things that they do that's helped them through what they do. We've got talks about cash flow forecasting from the Float founder and the things that he finds most interesting about businesses that are struggling with cash flow and how to best manage their cash flow. And he's talking about how important bookkeeping is to make sure that the information that's in your cash flow is actually correct. There's also in the US focus section of XU magazine, there's information on how to stay smart about sales tax compliance. And as you might know, or as you might guess, that article has been written by the founder, the director of marketing at Avalara, who is also most likely to be part of this webinar, or one of the people to be part of this webinar that Xero is running with the US summer camp this week, interviewing the add-ons. All right, if anybody has any questions, I'll hang around for a little bit longer to enter your question in the chat box. If you don't, you can find this recording here for the next 30 days here on the live stream page, or you'll be able to find it over at XU Magazine's YouTube page, where you can then enter any questions or comments in relation to this video once you've watched it, if you think of anything else. Otherwise, you can, of course, contact XU Magazine or join us on Twitter to get in touch with us to get any further information about Xero and using Xero in any way that you need. That's what we're here for. If you tweet us with your question with the hashtag Xero User Hour, we can, of course, answer it in the next Xero User Hour that we have coming up. Remember that Xero XU Magazine is free to subscribe. So whether you want a print version like I was showing you, or whether you want a digital version, subscribe for free at xumagazine.com, and you can get all the information straight into your hot little hands or into your email box as well. All right, have a fantastic day, everybody. If there's any questions that come in, I will answer them. If not, enjoy your day, and I will see you all next week. Have a great day. Bye.